perform anything tonight, but you know Tony. Oh, Marilyn, put your name on the list.
There it
And then he left.
And then he left. Yeah, that's fine. So because it's been mostly a music night, I have a little story about a musician. And since we're talking about nostalgia, we'll go back to 1964.
Yay!
I was not a Beatles fan.
What?
I was like more into Dave Clark 5.
Yeah, yeah.
Nay.
And Motown,
Yeah.
of course,
Yes.
and especially the girl groups and you know
Yeah.
that
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
stuff.
Sure.
So when
Yeah.
in February, I think it was of 1964, the Beatles were going to be on the Ed Sullivan Show, that was not a big deal to me. But I was a theater kid, and that same night, the cast, the London cast, the original cast of Oliver was going to be on Ed Sullivan, and they were going to do some numbers live. Now, we kids back in Lansing, Illinois, knew about Oliver, but we had no idea what it would actually look like, because you know there wasn't YouTube, and that we just didn't have any access to it. So this was a very exciting night. Georgia Brown, you know, as long as he, the woman who originated that song
Yeah.
on stage, was performing with a bunch of the kids, including this 19-year-old phenom who had started his career as a jockey racing, but he had a beautiful voice, was a gorgeous kid, and she introduces him, and he's singing, you know, the I do anything for you, dear. And so he's completely steals my heart, Davy Jones.
Jones.
Yeah.
Now, almost
The
nobody
Monkees.
noticed that the cast of Oliver was on Ed Sullivan that night. And in interviews throughout the decades, Davy Jones would tell this story, and it was always, you know, it always rankled him a little bit, right? Even though he became so fabulously successful. Well, after the Monkees were long over, in 2003, my husband, who makes television, has made television for a living for all the time that I've known him, for 30-some years. He was producing promos and the open for an A&E show called Meet the Royals, which was a television show that would tell stories about the British royal family, but in very much a send-up style. And this was for a company that he and some friends owned called Smash Advertising, which is where I met Susan Kane
Oh.
before she and Dino were married. So this is all interweaves nicely. So Rick is working, producing these, you know, the opening pieces and the promo pieces right here in Boston at National Video Boston. And you know, you're working together with somebody for several weeks in a very tight setting. You get friendly, you're making jokes, and Davey was constantly ribbing Rick, calling him old man, and just like really completely teasing him up every single day. So one time, Rick said, "Oh yeah, Davey." Well, Davey was complaining about the fare that they were bringing in to eat, and Rick said, "Oh well, yeah, Davey. Well, when are you coming to my house for dinner?" And Davey said, "How about Wednesday?"
Called it rough.
So Rick calls me up and says, "Hey, we're cooking for dinner. We're cooking Davy Jones dinner on Wednesday night." I said, "What? Are you kidding me? Davy Jones is coming to my house." So, through working with his road manager and everything, I figure out that the fail-proof, you know, the foolproof dinner is going to be poached salmon and vegetables and salad. He's a very healthy eater. Okay, great. Dinner goes off just fine. Our two kids are still in high school, both of them involved in music programs. And through the course of the evening, Davey looks across at my daughter Bobby and says, "Bobby, what's your favorite song?" "Walkin' in Memphis" by Mark Cohn.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
he lights up. That's an amazing song. So within a couple of beats, my daughter and Davy Jones are duetting across the dinner table. And the whole family, because we all know this song, we're all singing "Walkin' in Memphis." Then, of course, he knows that this time I'm still working at the radio station, and he asks me what my favorite music is. You know, obviously folk music. I said, well, you know what? I really, really love the early rock and roll and the pre-rock and roll singers like Johnny Ray.
Yes.
And his eyes, you know, those big, beautiful eyes get even wider. And he said, Johnny Ray! He was so enamored of Johnny Ray, his inspiration, that he had plans for making a documentary about the life of Johnny Ray, which actually never got off the ground. But nevertheless, there we were at my dining room table over my poached salmon, singing, you know, if your sweetheart sends a letter. So we're like belting out these Johnny Ray songs with Davy Jones. And then he said, well, you know, I know you're in folk music, Marilyn. He said, I think one of my really close friends is probably someone who you would have known about. He's passed away now. Well, it turns out that in California, Davy's neighbor was Phil Oakes.
Yay.
Yeah.
Oh, my
Now,
favorite.
Phil Oakes, of course, one of my idols.
Yeah.
I Ain't Marching Anymore and all those wonderful protest songs. He really lived and walked the walk.
Pleasures of the Heart.
Pleasures of the Harbor, Take from California, all
Oh,
these
certainly,
fabulous
right.
songs. And then as Johnny Ray had a meteoric career, which then descended into scandal and addiction, Phil Oakes' fabulous career really went into a tailspin, and he succumbed to mental illness and addictions as well. And at one point, he was in such trouble that he was going to leave California and go live with his sister on Long Island.
Sunny.
So when Phil was packing up to leave, he came to his good friend Davy and he said, you know, he gave him some of his belongings to keep for him. And he said, I wouldn't trust anybody else to care for my pet while I'm away. And Davy said, of course. Because what you get from Davy Jones, even if you didn't get to meet him, was that he really would do anything for you, dear. You know what I mean? He was a true friend. He'd come up from really very sort of low social class in London and really risen to the top. So he said, of course, he would take care of his pet. And it wasn't much long after that that Phil had taken his own life. And there was Davy Jones, caring for one of Phil's most precious things in his care, his pet monkey. Can you believe it?
Was it a cherry?
It was a monkey. So the monkey.
Oh my God. I always like to take out a
Phil
monkey.
Oakes.
Are you kidding me?
And the nicest thing about it was that while Davy was telling us this story about his dear friend who had lost his life to his own sadness, there was Davy Jones, who'd been singing at my table and also teared up and was crying because he really felt at home. And because of that, when Davy Jones died in 2012,
Yeah.
we all felt like we'd lost a dear friend too. But I'll never hear I'd Do Anything again without thinking of that night. So thank you very much for allowing me
Beautiful
to share a
story.
story
Yeah.
with you.
Thank you,
Beautiful.
Marilyn.
And I do have one brief announcement. Now that I've retired from my job at Perkins School for the Blind, I've begun writing and doing storytelling.
Yeah.
I won a story slam, and there's a semifinals being held at Club Passim on Monday, April 16th. So come to Club Passim on April 16th and cheer me on because the audience counts in that situation.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Beautiful.
Good. I'm
This
glad
is
you
great.
did
It's
that.
great to hear all of you.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So